Today is going to be a good day, family. Welcome to the podcast. I am your host, Regina Lynn. On this podcast, we cultivate a safe space where we can confront uncomfortable conversations. In addition, we strive to create a world where every individual feels prepared, secure, and confident in the plans that they have for the future, knowing that they have provided clarity and peace of mind for themselves and their family. Let's get started in today's episode. Today's episode, we're going to discuss establishing an emergency fund. In that emergency fund, you need to be able to travel and to stay somewhere at least 7 days. And before you decide the amount that goes into the emergency fund, let's first define what an emergency is. An emergency is defined as an unplanned event. With that, most times we are faced with a travel emergency. If we get a phone call that our grandmother has suddenly passed away, then we have to get on a plane within the next 2 to 3 days so that we can go handle family affairs and actually attend either her memorial service or her funeral. And so, how do you determine how much money to set aside for your emergency fund? The way you determine that is you can start today. So tonight, go to the internet and type in your favorite airline, and then you should try to book a ticket leaving tomorrow. And then that'll give you a general idea of the cost of a last minute plane ticket. So you want to do this for your favorite airline, and then you want to do it for your least favorite airline so you can get a range of how much it'll cost. So if you had to go tomorrow, how much is that plane ticket going to cost? And even if you have to go tomorrow, what's the least amount that you may need to travel for tomorrow? And so once you get that, you want to put that amount of money to the side. So let's just say, and you do it from your hometown to the city where your grandmother currently lives. And we're using grandmother because my grandmother has already transitioned and I won't be attending her funeral services because they've already happened. So if I was going to my grandmother's funeral tomorrow, what would that cost? So I would cost out how much it would be to travel from where I live currently to where my grandmother lives currently. And then so let's just say that ticket is $800 for a last minute ticket. So you would say I need $800, and then you divide 800 by 2, and so that's 400. So you will need $1,200 for travel. Why do I say $1,200? Because that gives or take a little bit depending on what month it happens. So you want to be careful. So $1,200 to travel to a last minute funeral in your hometown or the hometown where your grandmother lives. Okay. So then you have that. Then I want you to go to your favorite hotel. Let's just say you're unable to stay with family because you want to make sure that you have money set aside for whatever the scenario is. So go online to your favorite hotel and put in days, checking in tomorrow and checking out 7 days from now. So whatever that amount comes to, you go ahead and put that money to the side. Once you get that total, I want you to add, let's just say it's going to cost you $800 to stay for 1 week in your favorite hotel near your grandmother's house, right? So then I want you to add $500 to that. The $500, again, it depends on what month you end up having to go to your grandmother's funeral. Then I want you to set aside a food per diem. And how do you do that? We'll say $80 a day for food should be sufficient enough because that's like $10 for breakfast, and then $35 for lunch, and then $35 for dinner. So that's $80 a day. So $80 times 7 days is $560. So you set aside $1,200 for your plane ticket. Then you set aside $1,300 for your lodging, and then you set aside $560 for your food allowance for this 7 day emergency trip. So now that's just for you by yourself. So if you have a spouse, then you can just calculate the plane ticket and the food per diem. And then you don't have to calculate the lodging because you will most likely be staying in a hotel with your spouse. If you have children, same thing. Calculate the plane ticket and the food per diem. Now, if the children are under the age of 12, then you can divide the 560 by 2. If they're over the age of 12, then you want to keep them at an $80 per diem per day. So theirs will still be the same as yours. You calculate that all together. Now, and I just giving you for a husband, a wife, and one child. Now, if you have other adults that live with you, for example, if you are the caregiver for your mom, your father, your sister, your brother, then you need to calculate the airlines, the lodging, and the food per diem, because trying to stay in a small room with multiple adults other than your spouse might be a challenge for some people. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to say the total cost of this emergency trip, just covering your airline ticket, your lodging, and your food per diem per person, is $3,060. So you need now to add another $500 for incidentals. Let's just say we're going to add $440. That'll make it an even $3,500 for this emergency trip. So right now, you know that you need to put $3,500 in savings so that you can go take care of a family emergency for at least 7 days without putting a financial strain on your current budget and or running up your credit card. And then that $3,500 trip can easily turn into $4,200 if you are a person that pays slow on your credit card and you're not in a position where you can pay that credit card off in 30 days. Now, you put the money to the side, and if you want to put it on your credit card so that you can calculate the travel points or the flight points, go ahead and do that. But make sure you take the $3,500 that you have in savings for your emergency trip and go ahead and pay that credit card off within 28 days so that you don't have to pay any interest on that emergency trip. So the bottom line of this particular podcast, what we want you to take away is this: set up an emergency fund that you can only use that for travel emergencies. And travel emergencies, if you have to get to a family member within the next 24 to 48 hours. This is not for a vacation. This is not to attend a graduation, a wedding, a family reunion, because those things you have time to plan for. Most times you have 6 months, more up to 6 months, maybe even 3 months to plan for those type of trips. This is an emergency travel fund where you have to travel within 24 to 48 hours. So like we do here on this podcast, go ahead and have the conversation. Make a plan, write it down, because it's better to have it and don't need it than to need it and don't have it. Until next time, peace. Thank you for connecting with us on today's podcast. We are dedicated to helping families navigate life's most challenging moments, providing peace of mind for themselves and their loved ones. Until next time, hug yourself, love like you've never been hurt before, and straighten your crown. Peace.